The most successful game developers I know have these 6 traits, and they leverage them to make entertaining, creative, and thoughtful games. I'm going to take you through each of them now, so stick around until the end because the last one really does help to tie them all together and will drive you forward as a game developer. Hi, my name is Matthew Carver, the Game Dev, and today we're going to ask the question, what 6 traits do you need to make games? My goal is to motivate, guide, and empower game developers to build more and better games. As this industry is growing, we are seeing more variation in the types of games and an ever-increasing amount of them. In my mind, this is due to the diversity of the people creating games these days. But across the board, they all have these characteristics in common. Also, this is just from my experience, so if you feel like I've missed anything or you'd like to add something, please put it down in the comments below so we can all grow and share and develop as a community together. The first characteristic required is skill. Do you have a specialized skill which you think would add value to a team, or do you have the skill set to be able to produce games on your own? By skill set, I'm talking about the 3 primary spheres of game development, and not the business side, not the marketing side, but the core to developing a game, and that is design, programming, and art. Game development is vast, and these 3 are expansive in their own right. As a game developer, you could be, say, a gameplay designer, a narrative designer, a user interface designer, a level designer. For art, you could be a 2D artist or a 3D modeler, a texture artist, a rigger, an animator, a concept artist, a user interface artist. As a programmer, you could be a gameplay programmer, a networking programmer, or an engine programmer. That's just scratching the surface. What I'm trying to get across here is that these disciplines are comprehensive, and you could spend your entire life trying to master one entire discipline and not actually get to it. Without a core skill, developing games is going to be hard. You should really take the time to identify what your skills are and niche down into them, focus on them and develop them further. Become highly proficient in those skills and leverage them in order to develop the games that you want. The most successful developers that I know are wizards in their chosen field. Number 2 is interest. Are you truly interested in being a game developer, or are you truly interested in game development and the industry in and of itself, or do you just really like games? This one almost speaks for itself, but if you aren't interested, then there really is no hope for you. It is more than just having a great idea or a love of playing games, because those things will only get you so far. Loving games and being interested in the industry that actually makes them are 2 very different things. Being interested in the game development industry is hard when you've had little or no exposure to it, but you can fix this by taking the time to catch up with the current state of the industry by frequenting websites like Gamasutra, Kotaku, Rock Paper Shotgun, IGN, just to name a few off the top of my head. These ones are very good and give you deep insight. You could even read postmortems. They're a fantastic insight into the developers' life, their struggles, their triumphs, and you'll even learn some techniques and some strategies. This is useful because you'll see the same names popping up here and there, and it's very good to be across who's who within the industry. You could also keep up to date with current release titles and future release titles, because being across all of those will help you to plan your development, your release, what your competition will be, what you should focus on, what you should avoid altogether. Another way to build your interest in the industry is to subscribe to channels like this one. A shameless plug, I know, but seriously, subscribing to channels that talk about game development concepts, tutorials, motivation, or support is helpful. Just don't get caught in the infinite loop of constantly watching these things, because that's harmful. That stops you from actually doing something. And like most things, most skills, you develop and grow when you're making something. That's why every single developer, practice developer, will say, make something. Doesn't matter how bad it is, just make something. The third characteristic of every successful game developer is their time management. A critical requirement for game developers is their time management and their relationship with time. Personally, my time is sparse. Each week I have blockout days where I spend 4 to 8 hours of focused development time working on my games. To really get anywhere, you need to dedicate at minimum that, but ideally 40 hours a week. It is all dependent on yourself if you are a solo developer. If you're within a team, if you're employed, obviously that's dictated by the company or the studio that you're working with. But as a solo developer who has a full-time job, you need to find yourself a balance, and we're going to talk about that in another video. Some projects, especially for new developers, can take upwards of 6 months up to multiple years. Now, this is assuming that you're developing on PC, which is relatively simple these days. You can work on it for more than 40 hours a week. You're still interested in it after the shine is gone, after you've come up with your grand idea, and assuming that you actually have the funds to maintain a lifestyle while you are developing full-time, which, power to you. The reality is most people have a 9 to 5, they commute home, they eat something, they socialize, maybe. By the time you do the math, your night is over, and it's time to do it all again the next day. Like a successful dev, my advice is to get smart and hack your schedule. Do what you have to do to boost your productivity so then you can actually get to a point where you've developed, marketed, and released a game. Number 4 is confidence. I've known so many developers that have this natural talent, but they just can't see it. Most of the time, people are their own critics, I get that, but they believe that they are lowest of the low and trash, and really write themselves off before they even get into the industry or before they even start their own project. No studio ever hired an unconfident developer, and no publisher ever took on a game where its dev was uncertain about its future. Successful game developers are confident in themselves and their team if they have one. They are humble, they have the confidence to promote their games in public, which is a big one, and they also have the confidence to promote other developers and putting other people above them. Nothing says you're confident in yourself by promoting the people around you. Then there is the other end of the spectrum with the arrogant douche that knows how to code better than anyone else in the country and knows your discipline better than you know it yourself, and could probably run the entire studio by themselves. They just don't have the time, so they're forced to work with you. Don't be overconfident, because there is always someone out there who is smarter than you. One of these days you will meet them and you will make a little bit of a fool out of yourself, and it's really damaging to your reputation. So just stay humble, be confident, and don't be a douche. Number 5 is connections. How many other devs do you know? How many local meetups do you attend? How active are you in the forums? In this industry, all the main players know each other. All the business owners and business heads and the hiring managers happen to know each other. If you are that arrogant douche that I was talking about a minute ago, guess what? You're not going to be able to find a job at new company because the old company has told new company that you're a douche. Every successful developer that I know hasn't gotten to where they are by themselves. I mean, there are the unicorns, and you do hear the stories about the solo developer who spent years in their basement making a game and went viral, and they sold hundreds of thousands of copies, and they are set for life and they can make whatever they want now. But that isn't the story for most developers, and most of them need to know people. They need to have their connections. Most of them have focus skills, and while they are talented, they can't make a game on their own. The most successful developers have huge reach and a whole lot of connections within the industry. Making connections like these are very positive for your career, but that said, don't do this just to use them. It's not very ethical, and they don't really think very much of you when you do that. Up-and-coming devs should be interacting with each other, because you guys don't know who's going to be the next Rami Ismail, or to go even older, Will Wright or Sid Meier. What's critical is that you guys are humble and you interact and you guys work with each other to develop your skills. And then when one or all of you are successful, you guys can leverage each other to create a strong position within the industry, which will only enable you guys to make more and better games. The 6th and final characteristic that I'm going to talk about is drive. However you want to frame it, drive, persistence, resilience, whatever label you put on it, this is critical. If you don't have this, you have nothing. Drive in this industry is the ability to work and work and work when the destination or the endpoint isn't clear and the promise of reward or validation isn't there. It's having the ability or the focus and have the passion to push yourself even when you don't feel like working. A lot of developers who became overnight successes had already been working for 10 years without recognition. But think about that. Do you have the resilience to work every day for 10 years without promise of success? It's a struggle. I struggle with it. Most developers will have posters, or the first tab that opens when they turn on their computer reminds them of exactly what they need to do that day and pretty much build that momentum and get them back into the flow of things. Most new game developers don't have this drive. They haven't trained it into themselves yet. They are still blinded by the shiny code that is game development. It is their dream and they want to make their game, but what they don't realize is it's hard work. There is no game today that was made that didn't require work. And most new game developers just want to spend most of their time playing games. Advice to new developers is making games and playing games are two very different things. Drive yourself to make games. So those are the 6 traits that you need to make games. Now, what I want to see in the comment section is I want to see where you guys rate yourselves with these 6 traits and where you guys are going to focus. And share your story right now. Where are you at? What have you developed? What have you not developed? And if you do need a hand, please DM me or anyone else in the comment section, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to help each other build better and more games. If you like this video, I really appreciate a like, subscribe, and if you could share it on social media, that'd be fantastic. I am new to this. I really would like to get this channel to grow so that I could get this message out there for more developers, and like I said, I really do want to see more games built and better games built. So if you could do that, that'd be fantastic. It really helps me a lot.